Joining me now is Allison Clements, a commissioner of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. This independent agency's mission is to assist consumers in obtaining safe, reliable, and secure energy services at a reasonable cost. Of course, I am Steve Clemons. We're probably cousins. My side was illiterate. But Commissioner Clements, it's great to be with you. Let me just open up and ask you, when you are looking at our energy infrastructure and making decisions about how we secure this, how we innovate in this sector, the kinds of investments we need as we look forward, I'd just be interested in some of the things that are top of mind to you.
Sure. Thanks, Steve, for having me. What a great program you've put on. You'll remember when we think about the electricity sector, which is really the backbone for the rest of the American economy, there are a lot of different entities responsible for trying to keep the system safe. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, where I work, is responsible for the reliability of the bulk electric system. We do not have responsibility over, for example, pipelines, which certainly came to the fore from a cybersecurity perspective during the Colonial pipeline attack earlier this year. So what I think about is information sharing, collaboration, and commitment across government and industry together. And you heard Tom Fannin talk about that yesterday to try and ensure protection of our nation's critical infrastructure.
Well, let me ask you a question about that, because when Tom Fanning, I want to tell everybody, Tom Fanning is the CEO of Southern Company. They're supporting today's event, but that's not why I'm citing him. He gave a very, very strong recommendation that our National Security Agency, our U.S. Cyber Command, needed to be embedded 24/7 in protecting these networks, that we couldn't rely on a kind of report and tell when you saw serious cyber breaches in our infrastructure. It was very interesting. You go out and poll industry, they're concerned about even just the, reporting about a breach. I'm interested in where the equilibrium is from your perspective. I've talked to Senator Warner, and he's sort of saying, hey, we need industry to report to us when there's a real breach, and there's resistance. Tom is way ahead of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, information sharing is critical, right? We have a baseline set, at least on the electricity side, we have a baseline set of reliability standards. Those are good as a starting point, right? But they don't keep up with the emerging threat. They're not 2 steps ahead. And so that information sharing, and there is pretty good information sharing across the electricity sector, government, FERC, DOE, through the Electricity Sector Coordinating Council and the EISEC program, where we do get information sharing. It's really important. And I think, as these nation states, terrorist groups, criminal groups, and hackers continue to evolve, that becomes even more important.
When we saw, the recent incident with Colonial Pipeline and the ransomware attack, my sense is, was that a wake-up call? Do people in your industry now realize that if we talk about electricity, it's really national security as well?
Yeah, I think that incident brought it to the forefront of mind for Americans, for all people to say, wow, this cybersecurity thing that's out there, this threat, it implicates my ability to go through my day and to keep my family healthy and safe. And so the industry itself, it's been going on for a long time. FERC has had responsibility since 2005 to ensure cybersecurity protections. And I think it just makes us all step back and say, wow, we still have a lot of work to do. We still have to stay vigilant. It's reported that over 75%, I think, of energy companies face some sort of vulnerability to a similar ransomware attack as was the case with Colonial. So to me, it's the industry, government's been working hard for some time. And now we have an unfortunate story to tell to help it just be relatable in everyday life.
So, Allison, I'm going to ask you a complicated question. I'm not expecting you to share anything classified with us, but I want to know when you got read in, which I'm sure you did, about the secret cleared area in the energy space about nefarious players, gangs, countries, and others trying to attack us. How dark a shade of gray did you turn?
Let me answer that in a different way. The commission didn't grow up around cybersecurity. We're the grid regulators, we're economic regulators, and like a lot of other agencies around the government, we had to grow up quickly to be capable of addressing the level of threat we face. And the commission does a lot of different things. We have these baseline security standards that we work with the North American Electric Reliability Corporation on. We talk to experts. We have an Office of Energy and Infrastructure Security that provides sector expertise to other government partners around and as well to jurisdictional entities. And so we're doing a lot of things that add up together to some encouraging steps relative to the threat we face.
What do you need to have a better, safer system? And I ask, I don't know if you can answer this. I don't know what side of I believe you're an independent commission. So when you look at what the Biden administration is doing, my understanding is that supporting and investing in the grid is not wrapped up in the infrastructure bill, which surprised me when I learned it. I asked Tom Fanning about it. He didn't seem too worried about it. But I guess I am worried about whether or not, from your point as a commissioner, independent commission, how you see the other players in government responding to your needs to deliver on your job, which is to make sure we have safe, reliable energy and electricity in this country.
Yeah, I think there is talk of supporting the development of new interstate high voltage transmission, which is not only beneficial to customers from a savings perspective over time and to bring clean energy online for customers, but also as part of the national security program. And we have to be careful to keep that in mind as we make decisions. Certainly, I think I've been impressed with the way that government is working together. There's always room to grow. I guess one thing that I see and I observe within the commission and around the government is the need to find good people, to bring people up, to attract and retain talent that helps us stay at the top of our game. That's a really important need right now.
Hey, I've got a question from Los Angeles from someone who's asking what the impact of climate change is, on the broad energy infrastructure in the country. It's a good question I hadn't thought of. So, I mean, I'm interested as you sort of looking on delivering energy, does climate come into the picture at all?
Absolutely. Climate change is national security. You heard that from our colleagues in the Defense Departments last week. It's the other piece of the puzzle that keeps us all up at night. Imagine any of these cyber attacks happening during extreme cold weather conditions when you're facing outages or extreme heat or unanticipated severe winds, hurricanes, et cetera. These are all reasons that the Commission is taking action now to do forward-looking system planning, to think about, okay, what are these new threats? What are the known unknowns? And how can we start to protect customers and people going forward relative to them?
And can I ask you one question? And if I were in your shoes, I imagine that the answer to the question I'm going to ask you is, hey, we're energy neutral. But when you look at this kind of broad array of inputs into the energy, so, coal, we still have, as Joe Manchin said to us the other day, about 600 coal plants, as I understand it. We have nuclear, we have gas, we have hydro, we have lots of other energy sources that pump at wind, of course. And I'm interested in, when you kind of, from your gut feeling, whether you're from non-regulatory, but your gut, how do you feel this is proceeding? Are we making healthy transitions from fossils to non-fossils? Is it moving in a steady way? And I'd love to hear any myths that you think we need to burst in this conversation about that. But are we getting the energy intensity, the consistency of energy supply as we begin shifting the mix of energy sources to the overall energy grid?
Well, Steve, you make a good regulator. These are the questions we're asking ourselves all the time. And it's very clear that the end game is reliable and affordable for customers. We can integrate a whole lot of wind and solar and increasingly battery storage and have a strong system. And in fact, a nimble system and a superior system from a security perspective than what we have today. Of course, we're in the middle of a transition. And so resources are retiring, new resources are coming online, and we have to manage that. We have to manage that in the face of unprecedented cyber and physical threats, also in the face of unprecedented extreme weather induced by climate change, to your previous question. And we've got grid operators around the country who are really, best of the best and qualified to make this happen. But certainly it's something that we're considering as we move forward, because the reality is, my gut is, the energy transition isn't stopping. Regardless of what the government does in Washington this week or next, or in any state, the markets are driving a resource change that is happening at a pretty exciting pace.
Well, look, I mean, this is a toe in the door discussion. It's a big discussion, a big topic. I think we got it open a little bit, and you were terrific in helping us to understand a lot of the dimensions of the energy picture, and I really am grateful to you. Allison Clements, Commissioner of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Steve. Take care.